What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Got some great questions lined up for Monday Mail Day, and let's get right into it. So these first two questions, they're very similar, so I'm going to lump them together and I can answer them in one shot. It comes from Marco and the Super Mario. And what's Juan Manuel Marquez's next move? Who would you like to see Juan Manuel Marquez fight next? So, I'm a longtime fan of Marquez. He's an excellent counterpuncher. He shows that heart, that grit. He did the unthinkable and stopped Pacquiao in a fight. The momentum started to shift towards Pacquiao. I thought earlier it was real competitive. They both had knockdowns. So, I personally think Marquez is looking for big fights to cash out. He's 40, 41 years old. So I think he's really going to try to go with the fights that are the most lucrative and big fights. I don't think he's trying to fight, like, let's say, an up-and-comer or somebody who doesn't really have an established name or brand or belt or anything like that. So for me, I would want to see, like, basically a new match. Juan Manuel Marquez versus Sean Porter even versus Kell Brook if he wants to go after a title shot, something like that in the UK. I think that's a big fight. Marquez, even versus Pacquiao, just to see what would happen. Those are all great fights for me. I don't really think he's expressed disinterest in trying to fight Floyd Mayweather again, so I really doubt something like that would happen. So I just want to see him in a good competitive fight with one of the young, strong dudes. And just to see what he has left. Ruslan Provodnikov also comes to mind. I think that's an excellent stylistic matchup because you have a guy who really doesn't care. He's aggressive, he's tough, he can hit hard, versus a guy who's way more fundamentally sound, more experience at a pro level, and he's an awesome counterpuncher. But if you watch Marquez fight, you also know this. He's been dropped several times, but he gets back up and he goes to war. So against an aggressive, tough guy like Ruslan Provodnikov, and I don't see Marquez using the same type of elusive footwork as Floyd Mayweather or Tim Bradley or something like that. So versus Ruslan, I think he'll bang it out more in spots and it'll be a firefight. So I'd really like to see something like that as well. So those are my picks. Rematch Pacquiao. Like, if the Pacquiao fight I don't have to see, but if if the Mayweather Pacquiao can't get made for whatever reason, and they're talking about pitting Pacquiao versus Jesse Vargas, hell yeah, make a Marquez, because I'd rather see a Marquez fight all day. If you look at the history of them two fighting, their fights have always been good and competitive, and I really have no interest in Pacquiao versus Jesse Vargas. So those are my top picks for Marquez and what I'd like to see next. Next question. Who do you think is the best trainer and why? Whose style and methods do you like from the UK? Shout out to the whole UK, and that comes from Bound. That's a tough question. That's a really tough question because I don't really have. It's kind of like a favorite movie. I don't have one favorite movie because I might be in a mood for a comedy. I really like gangster movies like Casino, Robert De Niro, classic Scarfaces, New Jack City, things like that. And that's how I feel about the trainers too. There's not one style that resonates. It's more or less what trainer is the best fit for the fighter. You know what I mean? Because they all do certain things different. I like Freddie Roach. I think if you're kind of a molded guy and then you want to polish some things and you want that limelight, Freddie Roach is an awesome trainer to go to because he has that. He has a nice gym. He has time to really work with his superstar. So more or less, if you're a superstar like a Cotto or Pacquiao, and you want that environment and you want his methods, I think he's a good option. You can throw Floyd Mayweather Sr. in that list. He's raised arguably the number one pound for pound TBE fighter, which is Floyd Mayweather. And I give respect to the trainers that started and cultivated their fighter from a young age. Guys like Virgil Hunter and Andre Ward, Floyd Sr., and Roger Mayweather. You got to give those guys credit because you have a blank canvas. It's one thing for someone to have already started and then you come in and put the final touches on it. But if you're working with Andre Ward when he's 9 years old, that's different. You know what I mean? Because he still doesn't have a lot of fundamentals and the ability. You know what I mean? You have to get him on track and the right mindset. So there's a ton of guys. I like Joel Diaz a lot. I thought he gave real good advice in the Timothy Bradley Ruslan Provodnikov fight. He was like, "What the fuck are you doing to me?" Like, he was pissed. because his fighter was not listening and was derailing from the game plan because he had a chip on his shoulder. So I don't really have one favorite trainer. They're all great. It would be more or less if I had a promotional banner based on my fighter's style, who I would send him to. You know what I'm saying? But I really respect all the trainers, and I don't really have a favorite per se. Next question. Hey, Ego, do you think the heavyweight division can be as big as it was around Ali's time? What do you think are the best heavyweight fights that could be made right now? Good question. As far as it being as big as the heavyweight division during Ali's time, that's tough because during Ali's time, you had a lot of hitters. You had a lot of talent in that talent pool. You had guys like Ernie Shavers, Muhammad Ali, Ken Norton, Larry Holmes, George Foreman. You had a lot of guys. You had like certified killers who were all really good. Sonny Listons. They were all good fighters and all talented. And a lot of them possessed one of the biggest like advantages or attributes in the heavyweight division, which is power. So I don't know that we have in this modern age, I don't know if we have that type of talent pool with the current heavyweights, but for the first time in a couple of years, it has seemed more interesting. You have some interesting names. Now, I wouldn't put them up with, again, the legendary, so I don't know if it could top the grit, the grind, the hard work of the fighters around Ali's time, because I don't really see anyone who just stands out like George Foreman when he was punching the heavy bag and it had a dent in it, you know what I mean? But there are some interesting matches, and for the first time in a long time, I'm interested in the heavyweight division. You got guys like Mike Perez, Bryant Jennings, obviously Klitschko, who's been very dominant, Deontay Wilder, Bermane Stiverne, Andy Ruiz. You got some guys in there, and then some newcomers like Anthony Joshua. So I think in a couple years it could get big if these guys put on impressive performances. As far as the best heavyweight fights that could be made right now, we're getting one of those in January, and that's Bermane Stiverne versus Deontay Wilder. That's really going to sift through the bullshit, see who's who. Does Deontay Wilder have a chin? Is his power really that serious where a good boxer and a powerful heavyweight can't take his impact? That's one of the fights that I want to see, and I would like to see the winner face Klitschko. So those are, to me, some of the best heavyweight fights. Then you also got the entertainer side, someone like Shannon Briggs. Let's go, champ! Let's go, champ! You know what I'm saying? Him screaming. So mix and match all these guys, and I'm into it. I just want to see good competitive matches. Next question. Ego, who do you think is the prospect of the year? And Canelo Cotto, who do you think is the A side and why? Great videos like always. As far as prospects of the year, 3 come to mind: Felix Verdejo, Oscar Valdez, and Earl Spence Jr. And all 3 of these guys have had very solid performances. You look at Oscar Valdez, he had 6 fights, 6 in 1 year. Granted, it was against limited competition. It's not like he fought certified killers or whatnot. But I like to see, if you're going to fight average or moderate competition, stay active like that. Guys like Triple G and stuff, where they're fighting 4 to 6 times a year, that's at least better than fighting. Like, you look at Danny Garcia, for example, and I like Danny Garcia, but I'm using him as an example. Danny Garcia fought Mauricio Herrera, who lost to Kareem Mayfield, didn't fight the undefeated Kareem Mayfield. Then a lot of people thought he lost to Herrera. Then he comes back and fights Rod Salka. So you fought 2 times a year. Both fights were not necessarily the fights that the lineal champion should have been fighting. And then you top it off by fighting a guy you definitely shouldn't have been fighting in Rod Salka. So again, using the Oscar Valdez model, he's fought 6 people, and I'm not going to say they're top 10 contenders or anything like that, but at least he's given you 6 times, and he's not a lineal champion. He's not even a champion yet. So I respect that, and I think that's what these fighters need. They need that on-the-job experience. Sparring is sparring. Amateurs is amateurs. And making these guys fight a multitude of times per year is going to give them the on-the-job training that they need. Even Vasyl Lomachenko, you look at him. I don't really put him on the prospect of the year because I feel he's a little bit more advanced than even a prospect. But had he not been so confident in his skill and fought Orlando Salido, maybe, let's say, 3 or 4 fights in, he probably would have beat Salido, in my opinion. You know what I mean? But he was like, oh, in my second fight, I'm going to fight a tough guy who came in overweight, fought pretty dirty, and that kind of stuff. But had he had just a little bit more pro level experience, then he probably would have beat Salido, in my opinion. But he didn't have it. So at least these guys are fighting decent guys, and you know what I mean, getting the stoppages. Oscar Valdez, I really like the stoppages he got this year. Same thing with Felix Verdejo. He has, to me, one of the knockouts of the year. So I like how these guys are fighting and staying active and moving through the ranks. Earl Spence Jr., another guy who he's looking impressive. His last fight, the guy just wouldn't give up. He was a tough guy from Mexico, and he was a last-minute replacement, but he got hit with every punch but the kitchen sink. Like, Earl Spence was just taxing him, and then they finally had to stop it. So those three, to me, are my picks for prospect of the year, and I look forward to a big 2015 from all of them.